We're gonna go into our organizational meeting. We really don't have anything in there, we took care of all that already. Okay. First thing, actually, we have to approve the minutes of the December, which was one meeting, which was recessed to another. I did have here a correction, and we're working with a new group of folks here tonight, so it wasn't that big of a deal. It was, supervisor stated this was about an amendment to the November meeting. New tax rate for the new school will be 2.7, and that the increase for the town will be 1 million in general. That wasn't it. It's actually the school will be 2.7 million, assessed value. All right, fair enough. And I don't know, does anybody else have any other corrections or deletions to the minutes? Yeah.
No, that's okay, George, it just,
Lengthy process, okay. I have a motion from
Yes.
Paul, second, to approve the minutes.
Yeah.
Second, John. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, now we're gonna open our organizational, meeting, as we do every January, first meeting. Okay, the regular meeting night is the second Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. at the Town of Fremont Town Hall. Official depositories, Jeff Bank, Bank of America, Catskill Hudson, and other reputable insured institutions for consideration. Official newspaper, the Sullivan County Democrat. Reimbursement for mileage, I put that in, we had it, the last time was 55 cents per mile. I looked it up on the state site, and I put it in as state set rate, and in parentheses, 56.5% per mile, because that's what it's at currently. When a special meeting is called, a requirement of written notice to each board member and the town clerk shall be waived. Notice will be given either in person or via telephone in a timely manner. Appointments. Deputy Supervisor, Paul Kellum. Bookkeeper, Sandra Sipple. Independent Auditor, Ruis and Company. Budget Officer, George Conklin. Town Assessor, William Quick. We reappointed him last year for his 6-year term. Attorney for the town, Michael Davidoff. Dog Control Officer, Raymond Swack. Deputy Dog Control, Bonnie Swack. That was something we had addressed in September or so, because there was a problem with Ag and Markets, because she actually had done his job, and they said to cover her and the town, we should do that. Code Enforcement Officer, James McElroy. Health Officer, Paul Salzberg. Registrar of Vital Statistics, Diane Hess. Town Historian, Shirley Rengraves. Fire Advisory Board, David Hirsch. UDC Rep, Jim Dreyer. UDC Alternate, George Conklin. And that was basically it. At last year's meeting, we adopted the rules by resolution. We adopted rules of conduct and decorum at town board meeting, and resolution 1 was procedures for town board meetings. Shame on me, I made copies, and there's a few things in there that need to be changed, and I did not get it done. I think everybody here, we all understand I have copies of it, but I didn't, it's still, it has to be done by resolution, and I didn't wanna rush it, I didn't realize, and we can adopt it at February's meeting. We can still operate.
I would make a motion to table that until February.
Okay, all right, and a second,
Yeah.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, carries. Paul.
Speak up, Diane. Don't be
Sorry, Paul.
bashful.
Yeah, don't, yeah.
You only
yeah.
write so fast.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you know, exactly, you're new
We
to
can
this,
slow
so-
down.
And I've been on high idle all day here, so, if I get rammy, don't, you know, feel free to stop. Let's see. New business. I have a couple of things to address. Are there any comments on the organizational part of this? We could adopt it.
Blanket motion to adopt.
To adopt, okay. Paul, second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, carried. I've given all the new, councilmen, folders. In there, there's New York State, there's a bunch of stuff, there's I-9s or stuff even for you, Paul, I know as long as you've been here, there's, in there, they want copies of people's licenses, and that's a whole bookkeeping thing. I also included in everybody's folder a copy of the town ethics code, which was by resolution adopted in September 1970. I also, in there is the December 2013, the last closeout that Sandy gave us as far as account balances. The front is by budget, and at the closeout meeting, most of you were here for, on Monday, the 30th of December, we moved monies to make the highway and general funds whole. You know, the highway was about 100,000, and the general fund ended at 82,000. I have about $50,000 in there for highway that I held out because it was pretty dicey. There's this payroll, which is the first monthly and first highway payroll for the highway department. So these balances are gonna change as of tomorrow. But we will have the accurate ones for the February meeting, because as we speak, our tax collector's diligently collecting money for taxes.
I got a call today, they didn't receive this.
We had a tough run here the last 2 years. Poor Lorene's had it rough. Last year, the county legislature was, well, they had a tough budget, and they were slow in adopting it. So that, we didn't get the tax bills till late. And what had been the general operating procedure was that when Debbie Forsman was tax collector, she had kind of a tea and crumpet event 3 nights in a row with a couple of people, Lorene being one of them, and they says the bills for the county, they print them out, put everything together. For several $100s, said they would send the bills out for us. So I said to Lorene, I don't see where the question is here. So we had them do it. But unfortunately, approximately 300 of the tax bills, the S's and the T's, as Doris will know, came through with the tax, the Town of Liberty return address. So as we
And information.
are hoping not, but they collect them in person, or you send them to a lockbox in Albany, New York, or Buffalo, New York. Yeah, which I don't know how, I mean, that's gotta be really efficient. How many people just mailed them and said, oh, the town of Fremont must be doing something different. So it was 300, which is roughly, you know, about 12-15% of our tax bills. Lorene, got on the phone to them immediately, they're gonna send out another mailing to those people who were given the wrong stuff. But beyond that, I got mine today, and, they're pretty poorly printed, the ink is pretty funky.
Hard to read.
I'm not impressed.
No.
So, and I've had a couple complaints about it. I'm not real impressed. So we're gonna, I mean, we have to deal with this now. But, and there were also, not all the bills had gotten out. I guess they caught their mistake and stopped the run, cause this is all automated fold and bend and stuff and whatever. And when they caught it, they had to stop the run and it held things up. I believe she told me that as of this morning, all the bills are out. The other glitch in it is our wonderful postal service has decided to streamline things and send everything through Albany. So if you mail something out of, I believe these went out of Monticello, they no longer go to Newburgh and come here, or go from Monticello here, they go to Albany and here. Adds 2 days, the postal service told me. So that's where we're at with that. I mean, this is not something we wanted to see either, because our new superintendent of highways is sitting here with his hand out because all he sees is dollar signs going out of the back of those sand trucks. But we'll get through. We may have to sell a couple of our old trucks for scrap to pay the guys next payroll, but we'll make it. The other thing I wanted to bring to the board, we have this situation here with the videotaping of the meetings, which is, you know, it's fine. You know, it's legal, it's not a problem. But it did occur to me one day that it could be tampered with, not, and I don't think you would do that, I know you wouldn't. But somebody else with a more nefarious mind could come up with something. And I looked into a tripod and a video camera for the town today. One that we could put behind us here on the people in the gallery, and we would have our own copy then of what goes on in town meetings. And if there was a situation where somebody doctored something maybe, we would have, we don't need to make a decision on it now, because I'm just springing it on you guys, I haven't really talked to anybody about it. But it was something I did think of, and at the supervisors meeting today, a few of them said that they actually thought it was a good idea. They said, yeah, why not? Because,
Just find out how long the town has to.
yeah, you have your FOIA and stuff, and yeah, sure.
Because-
But, you know, it would give us our own
Yeah.
thing on it, you know, and it'd be subject to FOIL requests and all that, but we would have, for security measures, we would have a clear picture of who's in the, you know, in the gallery, and we would have our own copy, you know, that we could defend ourselves with if need be. So, just something to think about. And that was pretty much it. Does the board have anything?
Yeah, at our closeout meeting December 30th, Steve and Deborah presented
Oh, yes, and I believe that's why
a
Mr.
Bridgerton
Ford was
field,
here again.
and
Yeah.
there are some things in there that I didn't hear at the time, and afterwards I was pretty uptight about. But I'd like the board to sit down before we sign off on this thing, because one of the first things on my sheet is the combining of the Jerkman Field with Fremont Parks.
Okay,
3-4 months ago, Ellie come in with Lorraine and went to buy the Jerkman Field.
yeah,
It wasn't gonna happen then, it's not gonna happen now. The only possible way those fields will be combined is if Fremont Parks deed them to the town of Fremont. An elevated crosswalk. I talked to a lieutenant in the police force, and his first comment was, this is not New York City. You know, for a crosswalk to be there, there's gonna be 24 steps of the minimum to get to the top of it. And there isn't gonna be a red-blooded American kid that's gonna walk up 24 steps, down 24 steps, and then repeat it to get back to where they come from. Go ahead, Steve.
Just quickly, that, to my knowledge, that was never proposed. Both of those points that you brought up just now, I've never heard of them before. An elevated crosswalk was never proposed, and the combining of the two fields was never proposed. We were trying to coordinate things between the two fields, never to combine them. And a crosswalk was just simply to put an arch on each side of the street, so traffic would know that there was a crosswalk occurring. No elevated crosswalk, and where did that ever come from?
Oh, a crosswalk, I have notes of a crosswalk.
Where's an
I
elevated
didn't-
crosswalk come from?
Oh, okay,
That was never meant. It was
Yeah,
just
that
simply an arch on one side of the street and an arch on the other side of the street.
Oh, an
With
arch
a
gives-
portable blinking stoplight.
yeah,
But go ahead, I want
And
to just,
initially, Steve, I thought it was gonna be some paint on the blacktop.
yeah.
that could be,
And
But there was
one of
not-
the other things that,
but there was no elaborate, and certainly no plan afoot to combine the two fields. We just wanted to be fair, if we're gonna have an archway in one field, and an archway in another field. And if you wanted to do some other plantings and things like that, just to be open on the issue, to coordinate some things, but
you
never to
know,
combine.
I'd
the fields.
really like to see the board sit down with you, Steve, and Deborah, or whoever else is on the other side of concerned citizens. Because what was said to me is not gonna happen. And I'm down to one hearing aid. Tomorrow morning, I'll be in Middletown to get the other one repaired.
You need a super strong amplifier, because none of those things were ever said. You've
Well,
got some
what the
crosswalk
key
there.
point is here is that we need to have a concrete plan.
You know,
Yeah.
We need to have a,
I have later on, I have a very quick 5-minute update on this whole
okay.
process. But
Well,
I
quite-
don't want to interrupt you, so,
no, that's good, Steve, you know.
Yeah. Well,
but I
quite
just came
frankly,
into this, but I
Well,
never
we
had any
could-
talk of combining them.
we could probably go right into it. We don't have a lot on the agenda tonight.
Okay,
Our building inspector, is not gonna be here and doesn't have anything big. The assessor's not here. Like I said, does any of the other board members have anything else to bring up? I'm gonna make a couple phone calls on that first. We'll have a discussion on it. So, we can go to public comment, and this is something that was on the agenda, cause on there, I took it off, but actually part of the Sullivan Renaissance, which I believe this to be
part of it,
a part of it, is on the agenda, so,
Okay.
if you would like to go on there,
With
then
the
go
town's
with it.
permission, I could bring you all up to date real quickly.
Sure.
Check one of those things. You know, I'm not a good public speaker, so I rely on these little crutch handouts here, so I can look at a piece of paper. And anyone here would like a copy, you're welcome to have a copy. And,
Thanks for the big type, but it still didn't.
there's more for me. I'm gonna sit down, okay, is that okay? I'm not a good public speaker, but first I just want to give you a brief update. There was a lot of, there's a lot of energy around this project, and a lot of people who are already giving of their time. Don Downs has designed, and he's right now building the scoreboard for the Borkland Field. And he's also designed arches for the pedestrian walkway. And the pedestrian walkway was nothing other than an arch on one side of the Fremont Park and the other side the Borkland, so cars knew that there was traffic going on through there. There wasn't anything else, there was no elevation or anything on that. Mark Idley has removed some trees that were in the way. And Rich from the Delaware Valley Farm and Garden Center has offered to help us with a new shed for the Borkland Field. He didn't say he was gonna give it to us or whatever, but he's willing to work with us on that. Reginald Thomas, Lonnie's son, is about to do sketches and layouts for the field. He hasn't done it yet, because we don't have the go-ahead yet. I'm looking for more grant sources. Deborah Howard is coordinating the whole thing. Laureen Gedling is helping, and many others are pitching in. So there's a lot of activity going on. The next page is the benefits of improving the ball fields. One is safety issue. It should concern the town that we have a safe area in both fields actually, but certainly in the Brooklyn field. So we have, and part of what we propose to do to the fields is have grading, leveling done, filling in of holes. And before that is done, and before anything is done, and I neglected to put it down, there needs to be some flood mitigation on the Brooklyn field, on the side that isn't protected yet, because anything here would go to waste if it all got flooded. So that's one of the priority conditions of this whole thing. A pedestrian walkway, which we just spoke, which is, now the pedestrian walkway, not only is it a crosswalk between the Brooklyn field and the Fremont Park, but as you face the field, the front of Portland Field, and you go up Newman Hill Road, we wanted a sort of a paved or asphalt walkway so people could safely walk up to the field and up to the crosswalk. And then we also wanted clearly defined and bounded parking areas, maybe with little cement posts or something, so that the cars and people would not interfere with each other. Because there's a safety issue here. And also, a lot of cars don't know where to park. They park by the fire department area. They park everywhere, and it has to be something that's brought under control. So we needed sufficient signage to tell people where to park, as well as having areas that are bound to designate parking areas. And eventually, field lighting, which would expand the hours of play, and the not to plug into NICEAG, but to function off of a solar panel. This is a phase 3 consideration, not right away. There might be extra revenues involved, for charging fees for the use of the field, add revenues from signs on the fences, and possibly additional tax revenues from patrons of local businesses, gas stations, for example. And I just bring that in to massage one of my opponents right now. Youth benefits by participation in sports, participation in other supervised activities that benefit from an open field. The youth could also volunteer and participate in fundraising. And generally, civic pride in the fact that this is a showcase for our town. And it's also an area for local events and patriotic celebrations. And I just threw in band concerts, whatever else. It is a point of pride for the town. The funding of this, these are the phases, the general phase. One is a Renaissance grant. The Renaissance grant is the least part of the whole funding source. It's an initial category B grant that will just pay $1,500 to pay for plantings and signage. The deadline of that is March 19th. The Baseball Tomorrow Fund, which is a fund that's governed by Major League Baseball in conjunction with the Major League Players Association, has about $10 or $15 million to spend. They're very, and they are generous with that money, and it's $1 for $1. And whatever we raise, they will match. There's an April application filing deadline. But Renaissance isn't enough to get the $1 for $1. So we need to raise money from donations, and because the Renaissance second round grant won't be available when we file. We need to raise work in kind. Anything that's done on a voluntary basis, whether it's cutting trees down or building scoreboards, is going to have an equivalent dollar amount coming to us from that fund. So we need also to get donations in addition to money, material, supplies, finished goods. It's all matched $1 for $1. And I have to find other grants as well. Because again, the Renaissance isn't enough money to cover what we need or what we'd like. And the phase 2 would be the $10,000 Renaissance grant, which is a competitive grant for us. We compete with others in Sullivan County. Now, the major concerns that I have is whether the town of Fremont will agree to move forward or not. Because if it doesn't agree to move forward, then I take a vacation from this. There's nothing else for me to do. And also that flood mitigation, which I neglected to put down here, needs to be done before so that we can assure that nothing gets flooded after it's put in, such as plantings and things like that. The town of Fremont maintenance is an issue that I know you're all concerned about. You own the field, it has to be maintained anyway up to a certain point. We were hoping to put in not a lot of fancy flowers, which is Renaissance people seem to be in favor of, but just different kinds of grasses, which would require minimal of maintenance. And the Fremont Concerned Citizens Group and other people would volunteer also, I think, to help out. We try to not burden the town with excessive maintenance on this, you know. And we're not really putting anything in that requires a lot of maintenance either, but I'll show you what we're trying to get. Fremont Park has to establish a nonprofit status to apply for a grant. There's two separate streams. Fremont Park and Brooklyn are not merged in any way. They have to go their own way. We're just being neighborly, and we're saying, you know, these are available to us. Maybe you'd like to avail yourself of some of these funds as well, grants as well. So fundraising is for both fields, and that's the concerns and needs. Now, this is what we're asking for, and this is the last page. The general improvements, okay, field restoration, leveling, grading, filling in holes, reseeding, resodding, refurbishing base path areas, etc. We're not asking the town, we're asking for grant money for this, okay? This is not part of maintenance. Flood mitigation, as I mentioned, is important. Architectural landscape designs, we have two architects who are gonna help us out, free, to help design the layout for these, for these fields, mostly Brooklyn. Planting, grasses, planting of flowers. We have an analog scoreboard being built right now. We'd like to have the dugouts refurbished. We want a pedestrian safe walkway, front and side, field perimeter up the crosswalk, Brooklyn only. An overhanging arch at the crosswalk, parking area delimiters, tree removal, which has already been done, additional fencing for advertisements, signs include to indicate parking areas and other instructions, other signage, and to improve the area around the Brooklyn sign, to raise that sign up. Portable blinking light, stop light, solar panels for lighting, and by the way, as far out as that sounds, that's the sexiest thing there to all of these grant sources. They're very gung-ho on lighting for these ball fields, because it extends the hours where kids can play and extends the use of the field. Lights, low-maintenance lights, replacement of the equipment storage shed, which Rich is gonna help us with in some way, and a backstop for Fremont Park only. That's my whole spiel. And as I said, it doesn't go forward unless the town wants to go forward. Fremont Park is a separate thing, we're just being gentlemanly about it, tell them these grants are available. Our priority is Brooklyn, and the mitigation for flood and has to be done, and the maintenance we'll try to keep as low as possible, and that's the whole thing.
I did some research on this baseball tomorrow fund, which sounds like a great thing. It looks a little bit more like it's kind of geared toward like inner city stuff. I mean, the 501c3, I don't think's a problem, because actually I think Fremont Ballpark
You're
is
eligible immediately.
501c.
No, you're eligible.
No, I'm not.
You don't have to establish 501.
Oh, you aren't?
Park's not.
Oh,
No, Fremont
okay.
Park isn't, but you, town, Brooklyn's fine.
Okay, well, that's, okay, but then you go on to the next one. Does your organization serve low-income communities and families and offer scholarships, i.e. free or reduced player participation fees to low-income players? My radar goes up big time, because now how do we determine that? I would say yeah, because guess what? Probably more than 50% of the town of Fremont and the kids who already play on that field
Yes.
are low income.
Right.
Now you go to, does your organization actively encourage participation by minority, girls at risk,
Girls,
and
no, girls.
underserved youth?
No, girls are a separate category.
Okay, okay, at risk.
Girls are
Okay, so
always-
we've added another category.
Girls are always at risk. We have to-
And underserved youth to play baseball or softball. So
Right.
now we just added a whole nother layer of wow. Then you go down, does your organization have a written plan for the use of grant funds and supporting, which you just
Which
went
I would-
over?
Which I would write, yeah. It would help me.
Has your organization secured at least 50% of the total cost of the proposed project
All right.
in cash? Not secured, that means you have it in hand.
Yes.
or anticipated securing this funding?
Well, the anticipation is an interesting point.
We all anticipate a lot of things.
Yeah, you can say we anticipate, but frankly, if we have $10 of contributions, we have $10 from Renaissance, and we have $50 from other funds, that's $70, and we have $30 from work in kind, you know, people who are volunteering, that's $100. We'll get $100 from the baseball tomorrow fund.
Okay,
So the contributions are really key, and the work in kind is really key.
now the field facility maintenance plan, including annual budget and schedule of work.
Yeah,
That ball field down there, I just got a $300 bill for the garbage, which I'm not gonna pay. So this is gonna ruin your whole day anyway, cause I'm gonna let it go up for sale. That and Mr. Hubert has have somebody who mows it
mhm,
right now, spends a half a day, whatever, down there, a weed eat or whatever.
right.
I mean, we have new bleachers at St. Nectario's
Yeah,
gave us.
Saint,
I already have in mind, we're gonna scratch that out and put stone under it, so I don't have to mow it.
Mhm.
We put the new backstop in, and basically we need a new sign.
right, yeah, you do need to do something, right?
Yeah, that's, we know that.
Right.
At Craig Stewart, it's gonna be like $300-400.
Yeah,
Beyond that, we have a situation with safety with the kids, because they go back and forth
Yeah.
across the street, because
That's what
you're tied in with, just geographically, and obviously, in being in the same business, if you will, you know, for the kids, and they use the heck out of it. As far as the lights go, there were lights there for years, and we took them down, because they weren't.
Couldn't
used.
afford it.
Couldn't afford to run
well, you
them.
couldn't put electric bill, the electric. bill.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's why the solar panels are being considered.
Insurance.
And
You know what, when these kids use it, it's light until 9 o'clock at night. That field gets used the heck out of it, May, June, July, and then it doesn't get used again other than some softball games.
Right.
The Red Dogs, but they do it during the day, they're not there at nighttime.
Yeah.
I have experience with this, in that we've done 2 years of Renaissance programs, and that's how we made the office building over there into a pseudo municipal building. It doesn't look like a junky old house,
Mhm.
abandoned old house anymore.
Right.
And there was a bunch of us, I mean, Len Bauer and John and Jim McElroy, holy crap. We worked our butts off, and we made the money from Renaissance work, we did what we wanted to do. In saying that, Jim and I mow the lawn over there, and I would like to tear everything up and throw it away so I can mow it in 20 minutes. Because I'm mowing around flowers, and I'm mowing, and I know, because Diane did all the stone work.
Right.
The plow truck hit the stone base that she did quite nicely around that sign, and there's stones all over it. Well, the car came down the road and Mike hit it with the wing. I spent a half a day and several $100s of the town's money putting fence up because the deer are eating the deer-proof stuff. It doesn't exist. There's nothing deer-proof. You could put barbed wire out there, paint it green, they'll eat it.
Right.
And I'm coming from experience here with this and what we've dealt with that little tiny project over there.
Yeah.
And this time, we finished based on, we made a lot more lawn and it, I think, looks nice and I'm glad. Of course, now I have to mow twice as much. And Renaissance actually came with a crew because we weren't gonna finish on time. We just didn't have the help. I have a bag of bulbs over there this big, I just showed Lorraine. A nice young gentleman brought in who thought they would look beautiful. Spent several $100s on these daffodil bulbs. And he said, geez, you know, we plant these, that'd be great. Diane and Jim planted, I don't know how many of them. Next time he comes, I'm gonna hand him $500 and tell him to plant the goddamn things. Because guess what? That's all well and good when you do that. It's just like the signboard on the porch over there that was donated. And I got my chops broken because it wasn't hung up. And I hung it up.
Right.
I've been witness, now, mind you, I go back. before I was on the board, when Jim Grier was here 12 years ago, we resurfaced the bluestone on Stone Arch Bridge, did a big project there, pushed largely by Shirley Rengrave was involved and Jack Niflot. And so I go back in this. I've got 6 or 8 of these under my belt. And they're great, and I like the Renaissance, the grants is fine, and all this is fine. But when you come down to putting your gloves on and digging holes and getting blisters, I got news for you. You're gonna have 1 or 2 people there with you helping you.
Really? Now, you have an FCC, right, a Fremont Concerned Citizens Group. Shouldn't they therefore be actively part of this entire thing of helping?
They plan
keep
to
this thing
be.
up? Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Clean.
I've had
And-
lots of
and
people
also,
plan to be like.
We're not, the things we're asking for are really not high maintenance things like flowers. We're not really keen on flowers. We're keen on rebuilding the dugouts, you know, putting a covered dugout in, putting a new backstop in.
The
doing it safe.
backstop's there, we replaced it, that's a dead
On our
issue.
field,
It's
No,
done.
no,
on my field, on the Fremont field.
Ryan.
Oh, okay.
You know, that's a separate grant.
Oh, okay.
But having safe walkway with a minimal of cost, really, just to put a little arch on either side and a stop sign, a removable stop sign.
The Sullivan County Sheriff's Department, their deputies love to watch ball games.
Yeah.
I'm serious, I'm not being a wise guy, I mean, really.
Sure.
And I tell you, a phone call, they would be there, it's a great PR for them.
Yeah.
I feel that what you've written up here, to
Yeah.
me, is wonderfully, I mean, I appreciate, you've helped us in the past with a lot of stuff, and Marine is, my God, the work they've done down there at the ball field, Ellie. And a lot,
Well,
I,
let me put it this way. Civic pride is an important thing, and I'm gonna put that issue aside for a second.
you're preaching to the choir here, but.
Right, and so that's almost self-evident. But who wouldn't want a safe walkway? And who wouldn't want signs that improve the parking area?
They seem
You
to
know,
park pretty fine
I
now.
don't think they
Now
park, they
you
park by the
talk-
fire department, and they park
Well,
right
we
up
put
to the-
signs
right-
up so they don't
right-
park where-
Yeah, well, they do, they park right up to the fence, you know, and there's no safe way for the people to walk along
Well,
the
what are you
fence.
gonna do to stop that? You're gonna put
We're
like
gonna have,
concrete?
little, concrete pillars that keep the cars about, 3 feet away from the fence, 2.5 feet away from the fence, and then a little walkway, sorry. A
So-
little walkway that people can walk around.
Well, those
the perimeter of the
concrete
fence.
things are similar to our wall over here that I weed eat around.
Yeah, hard to, so it
I'm
doesn't have to
talking
be-
maintenance here. These guys
Okay.
right now, we have a mower, $1,500 mower we bought that they mow the field with.
Right.
And they do it, and there's minimal stuff. Every obstruction, every tree, every planting base, every concrete barrier poses as a impasse that you can no longer do that with. Now you got a guy,
Weed whacker.
No, so-
and I'm not trying to be
Maybe the concrete
obstructionist
pill-
here,
oh,
I'm being
no. So,
practical.
yeah, no, that's a good point. Maybe the concrete pillars are not a good thing. Or maybe there's a little cement strip that those pillars are on so that the grass doesn't grow there. Or maybe there's something like barriers that you see when you park by PECs, you know, raised fencing, or, you know, whatever. But something to keep the cars away from where people walk. You know, I don't see anything, the only thing that could be called exotic here is a solar panel, you know, that kind of thing. But, and you pointed out, it stays light pretty well anyway for 9 o'clock. But better signs, improved dugouts, a new shed.
Which shed are you talking about?
There's 2 sheds in Brooklyn.
One
is
belongs
on
to
way
the Red
Fulton.
Dogs, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know really,
The
because
two
like I said,
sheds
I just got into this last week, but
Yeah, the
one
town,
shed is
both
going
of them.
the
down.
town one is in pretty rough shape.
Yeah,
Is that-
the newer red
It's
one is
rotted.
the bulldog.
Yeah,
Red
they
dog.
actually belonged, they asked, we
Yeah, they
gave them
brought that
permission
in.
to put it
Very
Oh, I
there.
see.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah.
But we weren't really trying to go for pie in the sky here. All I'm saying is.
Oh, I appreciate the intent.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to, you know. I mean, is it, oh, boy.
Let me get back to something, George, if you would, please.
Sure. Yeah, before.
I knew Harold and Pearl, Lois, Bob, and Richard, the 3 children. In the light of his donation, or him, Harold and Pearl donation and his family, I think it was meant to be non-political and for the kids, period. No political signage, no gas station signage.
You mean no ads, right, yeah, no advertising.
You know,
Right.
no extra signage on the field.
Right.
It's just for the kids.
Yeah.
And things that I would go for is a deep well, bathrooms, purchase of additional parking from Martin Friedel, and a stone monument, very similar to our Veterans Park out here. This is Bluestone country. And it'd be something permanent, and it would just say, Town of Fremont, Bajirkland Field. You know, just keeping things simple. It's for the kids. Get politics out of it, get businesses out of it. That's
Right.
not for the kids.
Okay, well, okay, then I understand that,
You know,
yeah. I think that the idea behind that was something taken out of the cover of the Saturday Evening Post, if some of you remember that. Norman Rockwell Americana, where you see all the ads on the fences of Wallfield.
Well, that's
That-
a
that-
problem
that's-
too, you know, because a
yeah.
lot of people don't wanna see that stuff.
They don't wanna see
They don't
it.
want billboards, they don't wanna
Well,
see
they get
that.
revenues for the town, which is,
you know,
so.
I'd like to keep the cost minimal.
But if there's a way to discuss this, to not kill it tonight, but if there's a way to discuss it, to say, well, these are things you might want, then I will go to get the grant money for it. And that's all I'm saying.
you know, that's,
And the Baseball America thing, I think is over the top. I mean, it's a great thing. I'm sure there's places where it's great. I mean, it's a good, like I said, I went
It's
to the
over the top with
website.
the requirements that they want, yeah.
It's more toward like inner city. We're not needy. The kids, you know, we're poor, but we don't know it. You know what I mean? It's, you know,
one
you
of the
get,
things I've seen happen down there as far as traffic control is, they set out cones
that was a great thing, down the middle of the road, yeah.
But they
down the
don't
middle of the
work.
road.
Yeah.
It
And
doesn't
They
stop
don't- they
anyone.
people not familiar with the area, seen the cones, and they slowed them down. You know, there's a simple solution.
But then the fire
and
department
I don't
doesn't
know,
like it
Mr.
because there's
Wayne,
not enough room if the fire trucks have to come out for them to be able to get down the road with them down the center of the road. Because look at the size of a fire truck and look at the size of a car.
Let's,
And then
and
there's
I
a little
agree.
bit of an
And
issue
let-
there,
let-
because people, when they park in the sides, don't always
Yeah.
park all the way up because they don't wanna be next
Yeah.
to the fence, so now, and then somebody wants to park behind them.
Yeah,
And
you're-
it makes
yeah.
that road very narrow for a regular vehicle sometimes to go up it.
You're not gonna stop that, I mean.
No, but putting
you-
a
I
cone in
had
the
s-
road doesn't really help.
I had somebody recommend a crossing guard, you know, the crosswalk idea, I get that.
So how do you keep all those kids from, I mean, they go
They're gonna
through
run
here,
back and
there,
forth,
there.
it's
I
just,
mean,
it is a
just
dangerous
being kids.
situation,
Yeah,
but.
I mean, just in
Movable
general.
speed bumps
Well,
in
no,
there,
you
so
can-
people
you
slow
can
down.
keep the kids.
Movable
Sure, you
seat
put
bump,
another
plastic
element
ones,
in
right across the
that has a
road when you
stop
have the
sign.
game. When the
And
game
you
is
have a cross-
finished, take it
a
off.
designated crosswalk. Those are just signals, you can't keep kids from doing anything, really.
Absolutely.
But, and anyway, you
Well, the
can
adults walk
strive
across
to help the situation. a little
I know what you're saying, you can make them more aware of it
More
when they
aware.
enter it.
The speed bump will slow
Which is-
somebody
yeah,
down.
which is a great
If you got
idea.
nice car
Yeah, speed bump will
or a
work.
truck.
But if you're gonna sell it, the thing is, the town, I think, a lot of people are proud of the ball field. And if you're not gonna sell it, then a lot of people that I've spoken to would like to see it enhanced in some way.
Yeah, it
And
serves a
we're-
great, I'm telling you, you wanna,
We
I
all
don't
play
know,
ball.
I mean, you live right across the street, you ever go over and watch like the football games or
I'm a hermit, as you know.
Well, I'm
so
just,
I
no,
didn't-
my point being, I actually go and
I mean,
watch the
it's
games
just-
and stuff, it's cool as heck. Whether, you know,
It is
the
great.
worst ones are the adults.
When I have visitors,
So we've all played there and we've
Yeah.
had our kids.
my
follow,
visitors always
you
come
know?
to see the games.
Oh, yeah, it's a great
Can I
thing.
ask a question? What's the problem with the parking? Is it because it's grass and people don't know where to park?
They don't know where to park, they
Well, why
park
don't
right
you
up to the
maybe
fence.
make a gravel field where that will be the parking, the gravel field will be way off the
Designated.
road.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's simple, that's easy.
Yeah, some kind of
And it's less,
delimiter.
less grass he's gotta cut.
Right.
Actually, the thing to do would be to blacktop it, because there's a problem with
Blacktop.
water sitting there
Absolutely.
by the
Yes.
bridge. And that's what we did over here for the parking lot, mitigated a lot of mess. Well, of course, you're going into a building there.
Right.
But, you know, blacktopping it would
Most of the parking for the town though is on the Fremont field. I mean, they don't want, the firehouse doesn't want the people there anymore, which, because they're blocking fire.
Well, yeah, we just kept them, we put those signs so they don't park in front of the doors,
Right.
and there's some room for
But
us.
up by Gracie Park, that was all meant for parking.
Oh, yeah.
That whole grass field there.
I actually see,
And
will
I
they
mean-
park all down the county road and
Right,
then by
and that's,
Fritos?
that's what we don't want. You know, we want the safety issue more.
That's a
And
tough, yeah.
I said, you know, I would like to say for the town's part of this, I mean, you've got a bunch of us right here that are volunteers. And we've been doing this for 20-some years now, volunteering for Fremont Park, and I bought that field from Bajorkman's for $8,000. And we fundraised and had it paid off in 2 years. The town it was donated to, I understand that. But I think the town needs to look at it as a little bit wider and say, you know, this is a nice community thing for the town of Fremont, not just for the town of Fremont. There's people from the town of Delaware, Coshocton, everybody that comes and plays over here. And it's something that we have volunteered, and I know the town of Fremont guys have to go out and do that. Okay, that's part of the taxpayers' money, but I think we've kept up as volunteers almost more than the town has in all the past years, and all that we're asking for in this is a little bit of support from the town to say, yes, if you guys would like to try to make this improvement or that improvement, we're behind you. That's all we're asking here, is for the town to be behind us and try to make this the best that we can for the town.
No, it is for the town. This is really, whatever you guys would like, if you wanna pursue this, we will incorporate, and we'll end up with a product that we all agree on. I wouldn't turn my back on the funding that's available, and if they ask us politically sensitive questions, you know, yes, we are by default helping low-income people and things like that, so I wouldn't kill this, you know. It is for the town, and apparently a lot of people would like to see it.
I hope you appreciate where I'm coming from with this. I'm a common sense conservative.
Yeah.
The government has a duty to its constituents to keep the roads open and keep the place safe to live. We don't want dilapidated buildings, we don't need drug dens, any of that. 80% of our budget goes to the roads. The rest of it, we try to keep simple. And the problem with our current government, whether it's the county, the state, or the federal government, right now, is all the peripheral stuff that really doesn't do anything specific. Keep our roads and bridges good, keep our borders safe, have a nice day. We've gotten into so many things. We're feeding kids in schools breakfast, we're putting in these parks, all this stuff. Yeah, it is good if you can afford it and you can maintain it, but you gotta work from the core out. And we have to keep, I mean, I have a big project in Lake Muscadet, we have to meet with somebody up there in a couple weeks, because they have a big situation, they have to get our bridge off of their dam so they can fix it, and we have a big decision to make there. That's a huge burden on the town. Getting the tax bills out and collecting tax money, keeping the roads clean, we're out of salt and the sand is low. Those are real important. From there, you work out to the peripheral stuff. And you try and keep the costs of that peripheral stuff at a minimum. Sometimes you gotta come off like a son of a gun. We're not trying to be obstructionists or stop anything like that, but we have to look out for the taxpayers, all of them. I mean, when we filled this place up with 80 or 100 people, that's 6 or 8% of the population. There's 2,000 parcels in this town, the people that pay taxes. We have to make sure they're all taken care of. We're all for the kids, we're all for having nice stuff. You know, let's face it, everybody sitting here at this table is basically doing public service, the same as Lorene and the same as everybody here has done at one time or another.
Well, now here's an opportunity. The money doesn't come from the tax base, it comes from grant funds.
Sure.
And it depends, if you were to take a referendum vote, I would be curious as to how many people before this kind of beautification, to use the most elite term, project. It's not a necessary project, except maybe for the safety part of it, you know, because you don't
Yeah.
want.
Well, that's
people
it,
falling
that,
down.
the safety, nobody's gonna
Yeah.
argue that with you,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a safety issue there.
But
Your
there is no
biggest problem there
taxpayer.
is the parking. I
Yeah,
mean, you ever see it on a tournament, they're everywhere.
I know,
I mean, you know, where are you gonna put them?
I know.
That's why you buy, you know,
Suggested,
you have to ask
Artie
Fritos.
Friedel.
I mean, that would fill
Right.
by Gracie's up through there
The
and
center
more.
field from Bajor.
I mean,
No,
it's,
I agree.
it's cra- and then how you gonna get them to do what you want them to? You're gonna have cops right there and tell them, listen, you can't park here. You're gonna have to park down there.
Well,
You know,
maybe
not
we
every, I mean, you
should,
could put as many signs as you want out there.
No, we're not going
They're not gonna
to
read them, but, you know, you're gonna have to be like a prick the first few games to them.
It's like the speed limit
Just tell
sign.
them,
and
yeah.
everything.
well, you
I
know,
think
if we
we'll-
really wanted to do a service
I
for
mean,
the
I'm all for
taxpayers,
it, you know?
we put our salt and sand there, and don't have it a field anymore, and then there's no parking problem and no child problem.
And we would be known for our wonderful sand and salt field.
Boy, if you could see the look, Lorene,
Just like,
get that
uh,
look in front of the camera, I want everybody to see it.
Just like Siberia, you know. wonderful.
I,
I think we can all agree that there are parking issues and there's things that we need to look at, but one of the first things you had mentioned is on the flood mitigation, and I'm not gonna say yes or no until I have a chance to look at that with you and see, as you said, if that can't be shored up or something can't be done there,
Right.
you know, so let's take a look at that first, and then come back and see where we go from here.
That would be the most important part,
Because
yeah.
the one question that I have from the last time was, and you have not here about removing the trees, there is a pretty nice buffer from the field to the stream.
Trees.
If we're removing that whole thing to replant and start over,
Right, right,
that's not a
We're only
good
taking
idea.
down dead trees.
right. Yeah.
Just the
That's
downs.
fine, and, you know, I know there's some barberry bushes and stuff in there that if you're
Yeah.
taking that out,
They
stuff.
were really,
And that's what I wanna look at with you and see what we have there, and
okay, but I'm a very action-oriented person, and I get things done. And so I have these deadline things too, so if you wanna keep this conversation going, which on behalf of my constituency and people who want me to help them, let's keep it going. And then, and if we can incorporate a plan that makes folks happy, not at the town's expense, then it would be appreciated.
I don't believe any of us here are looking to kill anybody's ideas, we certainly are, myself anyway, I'm appreciative
Yeah.
that you wanna do something there. I think that the highway department needs to be included in it, soil and water, and Brian Brussman is obviously key.
Right.
With the flood mitigation, should that be an issue. And then we have to have the board get, together to come up with some kind of happy medium here that we can all live with. Because, I mean, myself, I'm not one for doing, something really overdone, because, like I said, perpetual costs. All
Right.
these things are wonderful, it's like all these grants, the county and this, that you
No,
get-
I'm-
you know, and
I
then
understand
you're
what
stuck
you're
with
doing.
it.
No, it's quite foolish, some of the things that are done for this. these
Sure,
grants.
sure.
But, so let's get the foolishness out of this, and whatever really is a good core requirement for us, then we keep in,
Yeah,
and then I will get the money for it.
I would be most interested in the safety issues,
Sure, with the parking.
because the liability's on the town.
Right.
And that's, we share in it. And there are some issues there, but like I said, I thought we did leaps and bounds. I mean, we got the backstop done, thanks, God rest his soul, to Paul and St. Nectario's, and in doing that, we're gonna move the bleachers 10 feet farther away from the intersection. And like I said, to do the bases, we pop them out, scrape it down, put them back in, and roll the field with our roller. And, because there's some holes out there.
Yeah.
I've been on it.
And I would be able to get money to pay for that.
Yeah, that's what we're saying, we'd be able to get
I
the
would
money
get
to
the money.
do
Well,
that.
Renaissance, $1,500 in Renaissance,
That's not-
we did that, almost that entire project across the way there.
Right.
Between Matt Hofer, The highway guys helped, John and Diane and Jim Hess and Lenny Bauer and I forget how many other people we had there. Oh, Jesus. I'm sorry. Jim McElroy and holy moly. Well, at least it's not like it's on camera forever. Wow. Surprised I'm not bleeding. Nonetheless, the point of it is, we did it all for $1,500, but Matt Hofer and Jim Hewson, and, you know, and in kind. When you talk about in kind, there was a lot of in kind there.
Right.
You know what I mean? We paid for very little. We did a lot of work. Rich at Agway is a great resource.
He's already stepped in and wants to help us.
Oh, he's great. He's great. They're very good there. But my point being, $1,500, we did probably $15,000 worth of work with that money.
And with this particular fund, you would have gotten $15,000 in addition.
Well, you know what happens when you get too much money? Go look at the Long Eddy Water District. Right? $400,000 grant. They had to spend it. You could launch a space shuttle from that thing. When I first got on the board 10 years ago, because they had to spend it.
Private wells for every citizen
Yep.
up there,
Yep.
cheaper.
Yep. Yep.
And Ken Klein was to our board meeting, and he says, be careful, there's nothing in New York state law where you can repeal it. Once you pass it, it's there forever. And they go for tax sale for not paying their water bill.
Yeah, so.
But that was very political at the time too.
I think we just wanna, at this point,
And
move
that's
forward.
exactly
We don't
what I
wanna,
don't want on this
No,
field.
no.
Keep
I
everybody
don't think
either.
we're political, I don't.
yeah.
Yeah.
Political, commercial,
Oh, okay, that I understand.
All we really wanna try to do is just make sure that the town board, because I'm not under a 5013 at Fremont Park, somebody has to back this, which would be the town of Fremont, cause we're basically looking at the town of Fremont Field, to try to get the grants. That's really all it is. We wanna do the work, we just want,
We can get
as
it through
teamwork, we're
Sullivan
hoping the
County.
board's behind us.
We can get it through Sullivan County Renaissance. And they give you, I mean, yeah, they're flower dollars and all that. I don't know what their infatuation is with
They're
annuals, and they love the, because it's instant gratification.
We want trees, we don't want flowers.
Well, I don't want no trees, cause now you gotta trim them, the leaf, you gotta blow the leaves off, and you gotta mow around them.
No,
I don't think it was, oh yeah, there was some people wanted some evergreens, but it was, there were a lot of different grasses that, you know, were put for,
Deer proof?
yeah, everything's deer proof. But someone had.
I think we could modify your plan, and again, I appreciate all the work that is going into this, I really do. I know this isn't something that you just sat at lunch and threw together, I understand that.
Right.
But I also think we need to trim it down. The safety is key for the town, and, you know, Paul had a couple of things.
Sure,
basically keep it simple just for the kids.
right.
and I like Paul's idea, cause Harold and Pearl were great people of the town, and to have something nice like that there, I think would be extremely nice.
Well, Bluestone's permanent, it's there, you put that in there, it'll be there forever.
Yeah,
You know, the painted signs, that one there is probably 10, 12 years old, and it's shot.
I think that's the second one, is that the second or third?
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's,
I think
and that's what happens, you know.
Craig Stewart painted it.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
pretty sure, pretty sure, yep. The next meeting's gonna be February 12th.
Okay.
we don't have that
If-
much time now,
If
do
you
we?
wanted,
Said March.
Well, the Renaissance is March, 14th or
March
March
19th,
19th,
April 1st.
well,
and then April 1st is the other one.
Steve, if you wanted, well, we all know that Paul is pretty accessible, and, you know, so are the rest of us. We'll try and work on this. In the meantime, I mean, Saturday mornings, you know, we're here.
Okay.
And, you know, you feel free to call me or whatever. In the meantime, give Brian a couple weeks to look at the flood stuff.
Like I said before, the latest, you and I will get together on Monday
Sure.
and take a look at this, and then see what we can.
Yeah, we'll work, I mean, we'll work,
Okay.
and we'll
Yeah, if we could, so I can meet, with Paul, and then, whoever else.
Or it should be the full board.
Well, yeah,
Before
but I
a work
mean,
session,
we'll,
anybody that-
yeah,
You know, you may not get the full board, Steve, but you get a majority.
we're all pretty,
With
at
John
least, you know,
included, because a lot of it's coming out of his highway budget for the
yeah.
man hours and mowing the
Yeah, for the
field.
maintenance, yeah.
So I think our highway superintendent should be included.
Sure.
Yeah, we don't have
Before
parks
the
and
next-
recreation here, you know, I mean,
You
Before the
know,
next meeting, I'd like to meet with
We don't need
you
it.
guys.
absolutely.
And then flesh together a more,
Come on, John.
acceptable plan.
Well, when you do it.
And then bring it up at the next,